GamingBolt presents 15 reasons why it's so hard to do a good Superman game. Look up in the sky, it's a bird. No, it's a plane. Wait, it's another glowing review for the latest PS4 darling, Spider-Man. The talented people over at Rocksteady took a DC icon and managed to create one of the best series of the last decade out of Batman, and managed to pave the way for Insomniac's Spider-Man by showing that superhero licensed games didn't have to suck, or be a one-in-a-million fluke like Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Given the huge success of Spider-Man, it doesn't take a genius to call a very real future with the Marvel game universe that gets just as much love as their MCU. But what of DC? Batman and Spider-Man pulled it off, but there's a rather important name missing here. It's not that people haven't tried to translate Superman to video games to, well, let's be generous and say various results. So why hasn't Batman opened the way to his bestie getting his own title? Will we ever get to see those highly original reviews say that you can feel like Superman? Well, we can think of at least 15 challenges that Superman poses to being translated into a game, so be sure to share your thoughts in the comments section below. It's a small world after all. We all know that Superman is faster than a speeding bullet. Much like Sonic the Hedgehog, Superman would simply find himself constrained by even the largest of open worlds that we can build on current hardware. As the visual fidelity demands of players have risen, the ability for developers to hand create a wide swath of interesting content becomes a bit more limited, and handing that kind of thing off to programs is how we get No Man's Sky at launch. Controllers can't contain him. Even following a huge nerf in his power set back in the 80s, Superman still has a rather incredible set of powers that he uses within moments to handle whatever the challenge demands. Flight, super speed, reaction time, strength, heat vision, frost breath, healing, telekinesis, invulnerability, super senses, and I'm sure the list goes on at least several more. There's an enormous challenge in not only squeezing all of the different things that he can do onto a controller, which is limited not only by the number of buttons you have, but making them all feel good to control as well. Whether in combat, exploration, or in flight, players would need to have pitch-perfect control of Superman at all times, while not having too confusing of a control scheme, which is a huge UX undertaking. BIZARWHO? When Batman Arkham Asylum came out, we got to tussle with the Joker, kick around Killer Croc, and enter the nightmare with Scarecrow to the delight of everyone who had even heard of comics before. Spider-Man may have put Mr. Negative into the spotlight at first, but Rhino, Vulture, Scorpion, and Electro quickly made themselves known to knock the wall-crawler around. Both of those games could sell themselves not just on their hero, but who they were going up against thanks to having baddies that are in the public zeitgeist. Notice how you never see any Granny Goodness t-shirts at Hot Topic? How about a General Zod plushie? For as iconic as the Man of Steel himself is, to the point of being the literal pop culture manifestation of the superhero image, his rogues gallery can't really enjoy the same level of fame that can help sell a video game. His biggest villain is a crazy bald guy with money, after all. He breaks difficulty curve. If a talented team were to somehow overcome the UX nightmare of controller mapping that we discussed earlier, those very same powers also pose a huge challenge to traditional game design, which demands a series of challenges taken by the player. As soon as you stick a health bar on Superman, who is known for being nearly invulnerable, is it really even Superman anymore? 2006 had Superman Returns, with an interesting twist in that Metropolis is what was damaged and made up your health bar. But given the reviews for that game, that doesn't seem like quite the right compromise to make. Superman has had a bad run. If you're going to make a video game to the kind of production values that Spider-Man has enjoyed, you're going to want to be able to sell the game based off of some kind of legacy or goodwill of some kind. Batman had to get some word of mouth to really take off, and Sony made very sure that everybody knew that the Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive people were making Spider-Man. Would Superman on the box help a publisher recoup their costs? It's possible if against all other odds, the game receives rave reviews, has a high-profile developer, and a good marketing budget. But with how risk-averse publishers are, would it ever even get off the ground in the first place when Superman 64 is still a meme? Progression curve busted. With Superman's powers being so wide and so strong, it feels cheap to unlock more powerful versions of those abilities, and beginning with a restrained Superman for any reason, narratively explained or not, kind of makes it just not Superman anymore. Levels can't restrain him. If it wasn't clear enough at this point that there's inherent problems with designing a game around an action replay invincibility cheat, that kind of thing boils right down to the very environment that you try to put him into. When Batman comes up against a locked door, he has to find a way around. When Spider-Man needs to empty a building of goons, he has to do it the old-fashioned way. Superman would be able to remove the entire door without issues or danger to any bystanders, and would shrug off 100 regular goons like flies. Any obstacle that could be in Superman's way would take a lot of hand-waving away the details on why he just can't go the direct route that isn't needed with more reasonable superheroes. The Boy Scout doesn't have a lot going on for him. Superman is a boring character, don't at me. In a medium where we can watch an alcoholic billionaire juggle his personal relationships and beating up terrorists in his fancy metal suit, or revel in being in the shoes of a silent predator that is Batman with his games, what does Superman really have going on? His powers negate the kind of conflict that drives Peter Parker to keep his relationships separate, so the Clark Kent dynamic doesn't really work here. He's just punching and trying to do as little damage as possible, which as a game mechanic is kind of awful. If we somehow got a Superman game that is the Superman we all know, as in not a reversion to Smallville, or 60s soups with a more reasonable power set and the ability to set a difficulty curve, then they've got him to feel good to control and nailed all of his superpowers. When you can do anything, there's nothing you can't do that's going to feel good. No challenge that can really defeat Superman, no obstacles to overcome. It's a sandbox mode of Minecraft without any of the creativity. It's a grilled cheese without ketchup. It's just a bit sad that there's nothing to stimulate a player when there's nothing to challenge him. Modern technology holds him back. Maybe one day we'll all have the technology that can give us a game that both looks great and can be expansive enough to allow a player to soar through the city, enjoy the kind of large-scale battles that would be seen in a DC animation against Brainiac or Doomsday, and have totally destructible buildings that requires players to determine exactly how strong their powers need to be to handle the threat without risking potential harm to the public. One day, but not right now. That kind of thing would melt all but the most powerful of PCs if they tried to do it with any level of fidelity today. Admit it, I did it and you did it too. You tried to kick a guy off the roof in Spider-Man, or totally wanted to run that thug down with a Batmobile. We as gamers will always, and without hesitation, try to push the boundaries of the experience and see exactly where our limitations are. They can hand-wave the thugs being moved out of the way by an electric shock and rubber bullets, or Spidey's webbing sticking the baddie to the side of Madison Square Garden. It's far harder to fix that dissonance between the Superman who would never even think about turning his heat vision on a preschool and the player who wants to see what happens, let alone still have the license. Gotta be in Metropolis. Superman's powers being the main problem begs the question of what happens if you take them away. Set the game on another planet, away from a yellow sun and against aliens who can somewhat match his power level. But at that point, why even make it a Superman game if you're going to strip him of the character, settings, and familiar elements that make up what fans like best about him? Superman as a character is just not able to be separated from those he chooses to protect. There's also the narrative problem of how Superman would be going to town on a sovereign planet without some serious writing workarounds. Limited character development. Without thinking about alternate portrayals like the Injustice series, which explores the ramifications of the character to far greater effect than his normal self, the Boy Scout of the Justice League would have little narrative developments over the course of the game. He has no character flaws to work out, or powers to develop, or challenges to overcome. Aside from Superman getting whiny about the devastation and collateral damage that one of his villains might inflict that he would then blame on himself, what story do you tell about the man who has no changing to do? The expectations. What I like to call the Half-Life 3 problem. We've all collectively grown up with Superman as an icon and a piece of modern mythology. Almost anybody, whether or not they read comics, can recognize Superman and what he stands for. There's very little creative liberty that a development team could take to tackle the problems we've discussed without risking that alienation and, well, I keep coming back to it, risk not making a Superman game. Superman's strength doesn't come from his powers. For all the whining about Superman being too powerful that we've done here, it's important to cap off this exploration of challenges of adapting the Man of Steel into a game setting by remembering exactly what makes Superman such an enduring, powerful character. His stories revolve not around his abilities, like a video game, but his decisions and choices and how he uses them. We don't remember Superman's stories for his interplay with his villains or how cool his powers are. His most powerful moments come from things like staying to talk with someone about to jump off the roof of a building. What you truly can't imitate about Superman in an interactive medium is his heart. His struggle isn't with beating the bad guy. It's in his constant struggle to do the right thing, when it would be so easy to go the other way. The thing that makes this character special really comes down to this. We don't want to be Superman. We aspire to be like Superman. And I think that's quite special. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.